Well, hello and welcome to the Dating Advisory Board. I'm your host, Jen Hecht. We have the fabulous and talented David Bullitt on the show today. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to give you a brief intro to David. He is a divorce attorney for over 31 years and also a multi-book author, published how many?
Two published.
Two published and working on a third one right now. But David practiced family law cases, helping clients in Maryland and D.C. through difficult times, including divorces, custody battles, and other contentious domestic conflicts. And David's second novel, Because I Had to, what we're going to discuss today, was published in January 2017. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud of that.
Yes, I am very proud of it. I can't wait to hear more about it. So drawing on his years as a divorce attorney and father of 4 daughters. 4. That's
a lot of girls.
That's a lot of girls. I know my dad, when my dad remarried, so then they had 3 because my stepmom had 2. So it was a handful of hairspray and brushes going
Never
into
had to
the
get
dry.
anybody dressed. They had to go to my wife to get dressed. So that worked out well for me in that regard anyway.
I mean, there were some fights. I mean, if my sister's 80s hair, wave would not go right, I mean, there was literally a brush into the drywall. But my dad was handy.
None of my clothes got stolen.
No clothes got stolen.
Unless somebody had to paint or some sort of arts and crafts project.
Right?
That was about the only
That's
time.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, was there a lot of fighting over the clothes? Like how
not
far?
mine.
Not you're done. Yeah, clear them off.
Not mine.
I mean.
But yeah, there was a few times I would hear some squeeching, and one of the girls squeal crossed with a screech is a squeech.
Yeah, because if I just taken it.
Yeah, someone took my sweatshirt, or this one took my shoes or my shirt, or whatever.
I used to
my
sneak
favorite
out.
hat.
I used to sneak out of my house. I'd wait till my sister was in the shower. I'd grab her this one sweater. I'll never forget this one polo sweater. And then I see my friends that were waiting, and I ran, and I'm laughing, and she's like, "Come back here!" By the time she got, I was already gone.
Yeah, we had a little bit of that.
Yeah.
A kid would be running down the street in the bus stop with her sister's sweatshirt over her shoulders.
Yeah.
She took my sweatshirt.
Yeah. But they weren't going to wear it anyway. It was just the point of.
It was the point that it was
theirs,
it was
and
mine.
you're not taking it.
And when you have a family with a lot of kids or a
Yeah.
lot of girls, but there's a little bit of that conflict, a little bit of competition, a little bit.
Right.
This is my space. Stay the hell out of it, kind of a thing.
Now, how many years apart were your girls?
My oldest is 28,
Okay.
and she's got 2 kids of her own, 2 boys, the only
Nice.
boys that we've got in the family, and my youngest is 19,
Okay.
sophomore in college.
Okay.
So,
All right, so
22 and 24.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so I want to talk a little bit about, and just from obviously the Dating Advisory Board show and divorce and what you see. I think there's a lot of things that aren't covered that maybe a lot of people don't know about, especially if they're looking at potentially getting divorced. Just because the divorce rate is so high, I mean it's 60%. So what do you think?
It is high.
It's like a very staggering number. Like, what do you think some of the major reasons that it is that high?
Well, it's pretty. I can tell you my experience,
Okay.
in terms of why people come and why they come to see me. And usually you see a couple of things, a couple of themes that are regular. One is money, either too much or too little, although that seems hard to believe, but usually money is a push and pull. There's stress over kids, sometimes when they're young, and there's stress after the kids have grown up and moved out, and now all of a sudden these 2 folks who spent a lot of time parenting their kids now look across the table at each other and maybe don't feel like they have as much in common as they thought they did 15 or 20 or 25 years ago.
Are you seeing that more now that the empty nester divorces?
Yeah, you do see some.
Okay.
You do see some. You don't see as much as you used to because there's not as much hanging in till the kids are grown up, and then
that's
I'm
a
going to
good
get
point.
out. There's a lot more. Okay, I'm unhappy, and I gotta make a phone call and see what I can do to get out of this situation. And the other thing, frankly, is sex. I mean, people fight about sex all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I had Dr. Willie Jolly on the show a few weeks
That's a good
ago.
name for.
Yeah.
Is that a therapist or what?
No, he's an author. he's also a speaker, and he goes to national radio. So, I mean, he's an unbelievable speaker. But he
What
and
a
his
great
wife,
name.
yeah, he's amazing. And his wife Dee Taylor Jolly, they wrote this book. They co-authored a book called 10 Secrets to a Lasting Marriage. And he said the top 2 things, he's like, for guys, they just want respect and sex. And I thought, wow, okay, that seems pretty
Shouldn't be too
easy.
hard. Should check those 2 blocks pretty easily.
Right, but then think about it. If your partner's not respecting you, right? I mean, why would you? I wouldn't even want to be around that person.
Generally, that's true, but what you think is being respected might be different than what I think.
Right.
And I had a guy in my office a couple of months ago, so I'll tweak the conversation just a little bit. But one of the comments he made to me after we met for 45 or 50 minutes was, if she spent as much time in bed with me as she spent on Facebook, I wouldn't even be sitting in your office right now. So that was his
That is a
perspective.
very interesting conversation we'll talk about. I mean, I
Yes.
think the social media has changed. I mean, where everyone's on your phone, you look around, you'll go
Sure.
in, and then you're just not, there's real people there. Like, take, around you, people like, I'm not meeting anyone. I can't meet people out. Well, get your head out of their phone when you're at Starbucks.
It's not just kids. People say, my
Yes.
kids are always on their phone. It's not kids, just kids. It's adults all the time.
Yeah, but
And-
they also let them. If there should be a
Sure.
Yeah.
When you're sitting down having dinner or your kid's doing homework, that phone ought to be someplace else.
and bring back the dinners of having a family dinner instead of like, here's everybody's
Absolutely.
iPad and be done with it.
Absolutely. It's true in a relationship, too.
Right.
When I sit down and when you sit down and have dinner with your significant other, whoever that might be,
Put the
you
phone
shouldn't
away.
be on your phone.
Yes.
Or
Phone
if it's
down.
your 20 minutes of having a glass of wine or a drink, you shouldn't be on your phone or looking at your iPad or that sort of thing. If you watch TV together, great.
Yeah.
But you need to connect that way.
And have you heard of the 5 love languages?
I haven't. I'm not sure I know all of them. But
Yes. Well, that's actually really it's interesting. I think people should actually do that before, like if they start dating or thinking about getting married, and how to communicate better, or maybe if they're having issues in relationships, because you may say there's different levels, right? So like mine is quality time. Words of affirmation, and just like, that was nice of you to do. And if you're doing things for that other person and you're a words of affirmation person, or they're negative talking, that's like a knife, and that's like, oh, you're done.
Well, yeah, and people show how
Yeah.
they feel in different ways. I mean, in my own relationship, okay, so I'm big into telling her she looks good,
Yeah.
and a lot of
And your wife
compliment
is
kind
a
of thing.
therapist, so that's
Yeah, but
that's,
but
that's
at
really
some
good.
point in time, when you don't get the compliments back, you kind of think, well, what's going on? But in fact, she shows it a different way. She shows it by doing things.
Mm-hmm.
She picks up the medicine. She knew my car needed this, so she took care of it, or whatever it might be. So she looks at it. She does things.
Right.
And when you're in a relationship like that, you don't have to be the same as me.
Right.
You don't have to show it the same way. You just need to understand. I need to understand that you're doing it.
Just have
that
a
we're showing it the
understanding.
way you're showing it to each other.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Now, do you think that, when people are, how do I say, like, if you're going through, say, if you have a really contentious one, like you were,
Yeah.
I mean, give you an example of, something that has been contentious and how to maybe look at it abstract, from a different place and maybe just have it work out? Or is there just sometimes where they're just like, these people are just really mean and they just don't care and they'll just do
You
whatever?
mean in a
divorce,
litigated
yeah.
case? Well, I mean, there are some people who just like the fight, and that's a small piece of the population. Most people that I come across may have to feel like they have to for one reason or another, but would prefer not to, and would
Right.
prefer to find another way and be a
Yeah.
little more pragmatic. I mean, life is short. You're on this earth for
Yeah,
70,
exactly.
80 years if you're lucky, give or take. And the thought of being in and out of courtrooms or allowing some judge who may be very smart and very empathetic, who's sitting up above you for 3 or 4 days to make a decision about your life that will affect your life and your spouse's life and your children's lives for the rest of their lives,
Right.
and know nothing about you before you walked in and nothing about you after you leave, ought to be scary to people. So I try to encourage people to at least consider having some peace in what's going to happen in that next step. But
What
it
if you
can be
just come
hard.
across those people that just, just don't care? They just want to basically put you on the street.
Put their spouse on
Yeah.
the street? I don't generally represent those people, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, because I have a hard time with that kind of an attitude, whether it's
Yeah.
male or female, frankly, because that's not a way to move your life forward. And
Right.
so I'm here to give someone advice and to represent them and advocate for them. But there comes a point where if somebody is so belligerent, like
Yeah.
you're talking about, and only sees this.
Like bullying or like emotionally, and like we talked about gaslighting.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that after you
Sure.
finish the statement.
Sure. But I mean, the point is that if people have children, married you for a reason, right? There is something there at some point in time.
Right.
And so let's not wreck a 6-year-old's life because it didn't work out between the two of us. Let's find a way. We got to fight. Let's keep it over here somewhere.
Right.
And let's try to protect that little girl, that little boy, or whatever it might be. And there's some people who just refuse to see that and won't see that. And that is what feeds the pocketbooks of psychiatrists and psychologists and other therapists and, frankly, divorce lawyers for a long time.
And I blame the parents of those people, to be honest with you. I do. I mean, like when you get to have those, nasty people that are just bullies that'll emotionally abuse and financial abuse. I mean, that's the biggest thing I hear, from some of my friends or just people in general that have been divorced, and they say, I was driving this expensive car, but I couldn't even buy groceries for my kids because it took all the money out of the account. Mm-hmm. And so, for that, it's like, karma comes, honey.
Sure. Got no money to give you any money this month. I'll be back on Thursday because I'm going to the Bahamas on a business trip.
Right.
And that's a difficult one to swallow, and that's one where you need, if you're that person, you need a good aggressive lawyer to get.
Absolutely. And a therapist. I mean, you need that's what we talk about.
No question.
I mean, this is so important because especially if you come against those people who want to fight, and this is in life in general, that people are a bully to you and they want, all their mission is to annihilate you and to take you down. You got to stay strong mentally. I mean, there are people that say, well, the sky is blue. No, it's not. You didn't say that. Yeah. It's all gaslighting, and it happens. And I would say I've had different financial planners on the show as well, and they talk about make sure you have your own account.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially if you're heading down that road, or you might be, you want to make sure that you've got some money preserved, some sort of a rainy day fund, something somewhere, be it in Visa debit cards, in gift cards, in cash in an account someplace. Yeah. Because if that happens, you need to get a lawyer. You're going to need money. Yeah. Or if there's that month or two that you've been shorted. Mm-hmm. You have that. So right. that's an important divorce planning tool that I think most divorce lawyers who know what they're doing would tell their clients to do well in advance of anything breaking in terms of separating or looking to divorce in another way.
Exactly. And then, find that support system, get your tribe together of supporting women. Maybe they've been through it, give advice on what you should be doing, what you should be focusing on. I think the major thing is if you are in a negative situation and around that kind of negativity, is try to tunnel that into a side project or something that you can put your energy towards in a positive way, so it doesn't come back and you're living in this negative space.
I mean, having support and having friends is really important. Yeah. I mean, when you're going through something like that, it's probably one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult thing that most people go through in their life.
Right, exactly.
Whether it's just whether you have kids or whether you don't. I mean, there was a reason that you ended up with this person, and there's probably a multitude of reasons why it's not working out. But it's hard. Yeah. Even in the best of worlds, in the easiest of situations, there's emotion, there's trauma, there's things that people go through that's hard. So having friends is an important thing. Now, here's the other side. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, some people just don't have souls.
Well, here's the other side.
Right.
The other side of having friends is the following. Well, you come and sit in my office and you tell me, well, my friend Lynn said I should get this, or I should get that, or she got this in her case. And I say, okay, well, where is Lynn? Where's Lynn live? Oh, Lynn's in Montana. Oh. And that's what they did, So, but the point in a divorce situation, and while it is really important to have that support system, is that you don't necessarily can't just listen to friends' advice. Your situation isn't going to be the same as mine. Mm-hmm. I've got 4 kids, one with special needs. You have no kids. Both you and your spouse are income earners. My spouse hasn't worked in 20 years. Right. My situation is going to be different.
Correct. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you got to be careful with the whole friendship thing.
Yeah, because especially if you're saying, well, I got this in my case, and this lawyer got this for me, and like you should get this too. Well, yeah, it also depends on where you live. Like, what's your actual, what do you?
It depends on where you live. It could be, and the difficult thing for some people to understand who are going through divorce litigation is that in Maryland, and the District of Columbia for that matter too, many things are discretionary, up to how a judge sees something.
Okay. And so can you just talk about that? What do you mean by discretionary?
Sure. So what I mean is, let's say we're trying a custody case.
Okay.
Or we're trying an alimony case, and you could try your case in front of 3 or 4 judges. There's no formula for deciding custody. Judges are told to make a decision based on the children's best interests, whatever the hell that means. Judges are told to determine alimony based on a series of factors, but there's not a formula, at least not in Maryland or the District of Columbia, that you plug numbers in. So if you try that alimony case or that custody case, you could do it in front of 3 judges. Same evidence. Everything's the same. Starts at the same time, ends at the same time. They go back. think about it, they come back, you have 3 different decisions. So you need to listen. People need to listen. You can make a decision what lawyer you hire, and hopefully you hire the right person that works for you. But you should listen to that advice if you're a litigant. You really should, because these folks have been in these kind of cases before. And as a, you know, and it's like anything else. As the way you might think of it out in the real world isn't necessarily the way a judge is going to think of it in an isolated 3 hours, 6 hours, 3 days of a trial situation.
Wow.
So you got to be careful.
Yeah, and if you, what would you say that your top like 3 or 5 tips would be if you were going down the road of divorce? What you should make sure that you have to prepare yourself.
Well, you want to have a plan. You want to make sure and it might be a little bit different if there's custody involved, but certainly if you think you might be in a custody dispute with your spouse over your children, you want to know where you're going to be. You want to be prepared to say where they're going to go to school. You want to make sure that you are connected with their healthcare providers, with their teachers, with the parents of their friends. That these folks see you, they know that you're there. In terms of custody, because again, when you try a custody case, what does a judge hear to try to decide what's in somebody's best interest? They hear you say, "I'm better because," or me say, "I'm better because," and then they rely upon aside from experts, which we could talk about if you want to, but they rely upon lay people. Oh yeah, she was at every PTA meeting.
Right.
Did you ever see Mr. Hecht or Mr. Clack or Mr. Jones or anybody else? No, never saw him. But she was there all the time. She volunteered. Who brought the kids in the morning? Oh, she did. So those are good witnesses to have. On the financial side, be educated. I have a lot of clients who've been married for many, many years, whose spouses, whether they're the primary wage earners or in some cases they're not, but they're the ones who manage the money. They have no idea where it goes, no idea what they have. Paycheck comes in, it gets saved, whatever it is.
So you're talking like get organized with what bills you're paying, and
the more that you can organize yourself from a financial standpoint, you will help yourself, you will help your lawyer help you, and you will save money so that you don't come to my office with a shopping bag full of stuff and dump it on my table, and we got to spend hours sifting through it. So you have your tax returns, you have your pay stubs, you have your bank statements, credit card statements. Let's see what you're spending, what you're earning. And so that enables the lawyer to help plan for you in advance if you can do that. Some people aren't fortunate enough to be able to make those plans because they come home and all the furniture is gone.
Oh my God.
So those are different situations. But where you know that this isn't working out, the best thing to do is to get your financial house in order, even if you don't understand it.
Wow.
Just get copies, make things, and then get yourself some good legal advice. Friends are great. They really are. They're terrific, and they will stand by you through thick and thin, but sometimes not the best advice givers in a divorce situation.
Right. Yeah, stick to the experts. All right, we're going to take a short break real quick, and then we come back. We've got more from David Bullitt. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back to the Dating Advisory Board. I'm your host, Jen Hecht. We have the wonderful David Bullitt here tonight.
Not sure about the wonderful, but I'm here. Yeah.
And, well, no, thank you so much for being on the show. So we're talking relationship, divorce, and we're going to talk about his book here in a few minutes, but we just want to we talked about a couple of tips. So if you actually are going through a divorce, like what do you need to prepare yourself for? And so what were a couple other ones, would you say? Some other tips?
Well, the other thing is to get yourself emotionally ready, because it's going to be difficult. So
and a long process.
We talked about friends, all right? So this is where real professionals can come in and be supportive and help you look at things. Because some friends have a built-in bias. That's why they're friends. So get yourself a therapist, somebody that you feel comfortable talking to, bouncing things off of, because there will be these situations that occur during the course the pendency of your divorce. Whether you're in litigation or whether you're working things out and trying to resolve things, there will be things that pop up, either between the two of you or between the two of you and a child.
Right.
And having someone who can look at you and tell you from a up here kind of a place, as opposed to an involved kind of a place.
And I will say this, the one thing I hear a lot, it's, be careful with your friends. Always is the whole conversation is about what you're going through, because they could get tired of hearing about it too, just because if you're not asking them like what's going on, with you. But
we all know people like that. If you talk to them for 20 minutes, 19 minutes is them telling you about yourself and about themselves, and then the other minute is them telling about themselves. So, but friendship works too. Right,
exactly. So, that's what I say. Therapists are, because they're, they can help you look at it from a different view other than your friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's an important piece.
Yeah. And then, what else would you say? What are their tips? Like
in terms of preparing.
Yeah, or even like when you're going through it, because I heard that one of my friends you should always say that it's a marathon, not a race.
Sprint, Most that's the case, unless they're really lucky and it's a sprint. But most cases are more on the marathon side. It takes a while.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, although Maryland, there's a newer law that enables people to get divorced faster.
Oh, really?
If they don't have children.
Does that still have to be married for a year or no?
No. So there's a new grounds for divorce called mutual consent divorce.
Oh, okay.
And what that requires in Maryland is so you can get a divorce in a day. Literally, if somebody get in a courthouse that fast. But what that requires is two things. One is that you have a settlement agreement that's resolved everything between you and your spouse.
So you would have to get like a lawyer before.
Yeah, you have to have everything. There has to be a written settlement agreement, A, and B, there can't be minor children. So if you have both of those boxes checked, you can get a divorce much faster. Maryland's no fault, which used to be 2 years, now is a year. We had what was called, and we still do have mutual and voluntary separation for a year, which is essentially a no fault-ish kind of grounds. Right. But now Maryland's strict no fault grounds, doesn't matter why we're here, we're just here because we can't be married anymore, is 1 year of waiting, 1 year of being separated.
Oh, so like they could have no fault. Okay, I see how that works. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so no fault, like they don't even care.
No, just get me the hell out of here.
Oh, okay. Is that with no child? Like, so if you have
can have no fault divorce with children. So
okay. Because I was like, wait.
I've litigated cases over other issues, because often cases that are litigated aren't about the divorce. At that point in time, most people would die to have a divorce. It's the other stuff. It's fighting over the houses and the retirement accounts and the money, and more often than not, children.
Yeah. Boy.
That was a big sigh.
Yeah. I mean, the stories.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say to the singles out there looking for love? I mean, so they don't end up in, well,
I don't want to cut
off your...
I don't want to get out of business and have to start selling surfboards for a living. No, seriously, that's hard advice to give. You're going to meet someone and you're going to be attracted to them or not, and you're going to like them or not. Yeah. Most people, especially younger people, aren't going to give a lot of thought to whether all the parts fit together, whether that Rubik's Cube of a marriage is going to all be blue on one side and orange on the other. But I do think that taking your time is a good idea. I do think that spending time together when you're meeting each other, and when you're in that, they used to call it courting, but when you're in that getting to know each other dating stage is a good thing. And I also think that when you think that you're serious about someone, that time apart is a good thing too. So you go on a trip with your girlfriends. How does he respond to that?
Right.
How does your potential partner respond to that? Is it calling you 17
Like
times.
how
a day to
many
find out what you're doing.
selfies did I get on the
Why are
morning
you not
daily?
home yet? Why?
No.
That kind of. Or is
That
it
is
someone?
a red flag.
Yeah, it's a big red flag. Oh, I
Right.
like the.
Yeah,
big
ring
red
that
flag.
bell.
Big
Ring
red
that bell.
flag.
Yeah.
Or on the other hand, is it someone who says, "Have a great time.
Yeah,
Let me
see
know
you
how
later."
you're doing, and
Yeah.
I'll see you when you get back."
Right.
And because you will, sometimes you'll see things early that are going to get worse later.
Thank you.
The things you can't see early, you can't help.
Yeah.
But so time together, time away from each other, in crowds with people, with other men, with other women, to make sure there's not some strange vibe that goes on.
Or
when
if
you're
they
in a
have
group with other people.
friends.
Or if they have friends. Yeah.
Right? Can you hang out? Like, how do you react with their friends? So, like, do you get
Sure.
along with their friends? I mean,
Sure.
are they? And I always say, like, trust your intuition. I think a lot of people don't do it, and then you end up in a negative space.
Well, either people don't do
Yeah.
it and they end up in a negative space, and sometimes people just don't have good intuition and they still end up in a
Well,
bad
then you
place.
need to start meditating, people. Okay, because it's amazing what you can.
I tried to do that. I'm not very good at that.
Oh,
I
it's
can't
good.
seem to sit still for that long.
But it helps calm your mind. I mean, they're talking about how they're doing that in workplaces going forward.
I know.
Like, doing, like,
I get it intellectually. Like I have this app. My wife tried to get me to
Headspace.
use. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. So I made it through the first one with the British or Australian guy talking and telling you to hold your stomach and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, how much more time do I have?
you would need it then. That's
Come
what
on,
it's
let's go.
doing.
Yeah, but I relax in a different way. And
Yeah.
another, so I mean, I don't know. I don't want to knock meditation because I'm sure it's wonderful and helpful, and I'd be stupid to do that. But for me, I can find my peace in different ways.
Yeah.
Writing is one of them.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to that in a second. So you don't think I still think I want to add to that real quick. I want to go back because I want to talk about core non-negotiables. Because when you're talking about courting someone, I mean, just like in business, because this is the dating advisory board, so we're taking business principles and applying them to a dating strategy. A company has its mission, vision statement, right? You know what your core, you're a family law attorney, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Your
Sure.
focus is on family. You have a target market who you're going. You're not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you have others,
I know what you're saying.
you know what I'm
You're
saying?
right. Yeah.
All right. So that if you try to date everybody, you're not going to really find a good fit unless you get like hyper focused. Like example I always use, Farmers Only. True story. Farmers Only is an app, a dating app for a farming lifestyle. If you are a farmer or want a farming lifestyle, this is the app. It's a brilliant marketing, unbelievable how they did that. But you know what you're getting, right?
Sure.
So, some of these apps, I mean, now you're just swiping. They have automatic swipers. Literally, it's an app you can literally swipe right, and then it's like filling your sales funnel.
Yeah, but I mean, look at Date Lab in the Washington Post. Right.
Yeah.
You read it every Sunday, right? 5 times out of 6, they give each other 1 or 2 stars. They never talk again, and that's where you got these folks at the Post. I don't know how they do it, but they're
don't know.
they're
I would
trying
do
to
some
match
recon
people
on
with
that.
similar likes and dislikes, and most times it doesn't work out. So
Well, you don't want to be like, I have to like everything they like. I mean, you should have
no,
something.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think that you're right. I think
Like
that
this is like I want somebody who is loyal, who just kind of look at those.
Sure.
These your core non-negotiables.
Sure, if you're someone who likes to be social and likes to go out and
You're
do
introvert,
things, you don't want to end up
or they're
with the
introvert.
guy who's got his headphones, or the other person who's got their headphones on
Right.
their head and is watching reruns of old Star Trek episodes on a Saturday night. That's not gonna work.
That's
for you.
gonna stay like you can't have that big of a
Yeah, I mean,
change between the
Yeah, but
personalities.
I think you're right. I think you want to try to find. You got to find commonalities. There's no question about it.
I mean, yeah, okay, so my tennis background. I was tennis pro. I was 24 in the country. Now, when people say, "Ooh, I want to play tennis with you," I'm like, "Oh my god," and it's just like because that was my life since I was 8 years old, and for me, I don't see it as a fun thing. I see it as complete exercise and competition. So.
What happened to the other 23? Why couldn't you move it up? Now
Well,
24.
that's just debatable.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Yeah. that's
Well,
it.
that we actually, back then, they had some unbelievable, like the top 20. I mean, they went pro. I mean,
sure.
they were unbelievable. I mean, I just had a bad rotator cuff. I was done.
The old injury.
The old injury, arm, no. So, but I'm just saying, you don't have to like all the same things that they like.
No, but it's nice
It's
to do
nice
some
to do stuff together. Like,
nice
you
to
like to
enjoy
hike.
some things. You like
Yeah.
to hike, or whatever it might be.
Or like you
Some
like the
commonality.
outdoors. It doesn't have to
Sure.
be like so hyper specific.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could be we both love Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You want to watch Game of Thrones all the time. It's a connection. Ding.
Amen. I love it. I mean, I love some dragons.
Me too. Big on dragons.
Yeah, exactly. Khaleesi.
I love Khaleesi.
Yeah,
She's
I know.
my favorite.
Yeah, she's awesome. All right, so from your wife's perspective, I want to talk about like how can they better communicate like, for couples. Like, have you ever had people say go to the therapist if you're thinking of divorce, and then they were able to change it, or anything like that? Or
Sometimes. Yeah. I
Okay.
always, there's often, you have a fair number of people who come to see me once because they're just wondering what's it going to look like if that's where they go. So when you talk about a palette of things you can do, client X, one of them is to try to work on your relationship. And one way to do that is to try to either go to a marriage therapist or go to someone who can work on the two of you. At the same time, you might have your own issues that you need to talk to someone.
Right.
But I mean, there's a reason why states historically have made people wait to get divorced because
Well, don't you think
generally,
there's certain things that you're like, okay, then this can just go right to the front? I mean,
yeah, I mean, but
I don't know if there is any. I'm just saying if
there
there's-
might be some things that go
Yeah.
right to the front. I mean, but historically, and we live, we came from the Puritans. That's where this country started, and so the many state laws and why you hear about all these waiting times for divorce. We talked about that a few
Yeah.
minutes ago, is because the state traditionally. I say the states
Right.
traditionally had an interest in keeping marriages together because we societally thought that it was better to do that. It may very well be true, frankly, but obviously we live in a day and age where you see some really bad relationships and you wonder how the hell they got together to begin with anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think people can change too.
Sure they can,
Yeah.
for better or for worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely people can change. People
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah.
People who get married really young.
Yeah.
You're not the same at 30 as you were at 19
No.
when you were in the military and got married and thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Now we've got 3 kids and so it's different.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's different whether it's heterosexual or homosexual relationship. It's you grow up.
You think, okay, well, if I'm at 30, but then there's people that say, well, I don't want to get married, but then they end up getting married. You know what I mean? And then it's like because they feel pressured from somebody else. And then I don't know how that doesn't not go down.
Well, for some people it's fine. It works out fine, right?
Right.
Others, they feel like, I wish I hadn't done that. What did that piece of paper mean? And now all of a sudden,
Yeah.
we have to share health insurance and we have to file joint tax returns and
it's
other things
shifting.
like that.
I think it's shifting. I mean, at least I know it from my age. From my age group. My people that are divorced, the younger, now in the late 30s, 40s, that they have zero interest in getting remarried again, especially if they already have kids.
Well, they might feel differently in 5 years or 10 years. Might feel differently.
I think it was
So
because
some
they're like,
might
well,
feel
I've got my
different.
kids. I've got my,
Yeah.
and I don't know if this is because you're, they're fine by themselves.
Jen, let's be honest. Most people don't want to be alone at
Right.
the end of the day.
But do you think a piece of
Most-
paper, are you hearing that?
No,
or,
I'm not talking about whether they get married or not.
Yeah.
But most people, whether it's get married or be in a relationship or whatever it might be, most people at the end of the day don't really mind having somebody to share their life with.
Right.
So some people might say, I'm never getting married again. I'm not doing that. I'm not getting no relationships for me. It's going to be short term, blah, blah. But most, we're creatures of habit in a lot of ways. And there are those folks out there who are very happy. Just
Churning and burning.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
the stories, oh
I'll
my
ring the
God,
bell. Yeah.
I hear
Yeah,
is just unbelievable. And they just don't care. No moral compass. No,
Nope.
don't believe in dating karma.
No.
None.
But if that's what works,
Hey,
it's what
good
makes the
for
world go
them.
round, I guess. But,
Congratulations.
most of us have a conscience. Most people
Yeah,
do.
most people.
Some way or the other. Yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
fine. No. I mean, but they know, hey, you know what? They're honest with it. They know
that's good, but-
they know what they want.
And people who've had their children,
Right.
and they're young.
I'm
see
just
that
saying
there's-
this is in general. This isn't even like after my age. I'm just saying I think it's in general. It's just how these.
Well, I see folks who, and we mentioned this a little bit earlier, who may have gotten married very young,
Right.
And now it's 25 years later, and
They're like, nope.
it's just not working anymore. I want to do things. I want to go. I want to exercise. I want to go out on Saturday nights, and their spouse is schlumped and in a chair and just doesn't have that kind of an energy level. And you look across and you say, this isn't what I was hoping for myself when I'm 55 or 60 or 65 or 70 years old.
Right.
And I have a partner who spends a lot of time working on what he calls gray divorces with folks that are 55, 60 and above.
Oh,
and
that's
dealing
interesting.
with those problems and the unique issues that are created by having older children and grandchildren. And you know, as you get older, there's a certain way that you like to do things, and you get set in certain ways.
Stuck in your ways.
You get stuck, and but that's how you live.
Yeah, and that's how you grow. And here's the thing: is if your partner or whatever is something bothers them, ask them or tell them in a polite way. You know, because then you're just going to get mad at them for no reason, right? Unless
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just communication, people.
Absolutely. I mean, if you love this person or you think you do, then the worst thing to do is just be quiet.
Yes.
Is to just
No.
not talk when there's something going on.
Or like say, I don't want to talk to you right now. I mean, why? Like if there's something bothering you, I mean, that's to make it worse.
Yeah. So long as what you have to say isn't gonna blow the whole thing up. I
Right,
mean, I
that's true.
have a general rule that I think has worked well for me.
Okay, let's hear it. We're gonna
And I
get
was
to
married in 1986. Okay.
that's
So,
awesome.
and this I believe, and when I have violated this rule, it's come to haunt me. So I try to live by this, and that is when what you're about to say doesn't make any difference and won't make any difference in what happens, you don't say it. Just don't say it.
I think that's just like a tweetable life moment. Tip.
So yeah, I think
I
it's
don't
under-
even think
it's
that's
under- it's
related to
under-
dating. I think that's related to every
what you're
aspect
gonna
of your
say
life.
isn't going to matter, then don't say it. Or go in the other room and say it really quietly so nobody else can hear, and then you feel better because you said it.
Said it right. I mean, sometimes you just have to say stuff because it makes you feel better, even though.
Yeah, but in a
don't-
relationship-
but not in a relationship.
Yeah,
but
in a
yeah.
relationship, if what you're going to say is going to light that match.
No, I'm saying in the mirror, like you feel
Yeah,
better.
say it in the
right.
mirror,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Go outside,
Yeah.
go in the bathroom,
Yeah.
go in the car.
Or just put on your voice recorder so
No
at least
question.
you have it.
Yeah.
It's just a record.
Perfect. However you want to do it. Just don't say it to your significant other.
Yeah, because words are, you can't take them back, right?
Words
no matter
can be
what.
very hurtful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and especially if you're degrading or bullying. I mean, we see a lot of that. I mean, the bullies.
A lot of that.
A lot of bullies. And I'm like,
A lot of that. A lot of, bullies, traditionally, it's no different when you're in a divorce than when you were out in the playground. Okay? Two things about bullies. One is they can never shut up. Can never shut up. So on the playground, they think they're funny because they're talking and they're pushing you around either physically or emotionally, but they can't. This is again one of David Bullett's.
I like
overviews.
it. I like it. Keep going.
And number two is you punch them in the mouth. I don't mean physically, but a bully doesn't like getting hit back and doesn't know how to respond to it. So when that bully is used to bullying, and everybody's sort of letting him or her do it.
It's called
That's what he gets.
accountability.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
but
I'm a
when you
big
turn-
fan of it.
When you turn in that there's two
Okay.
of them. When you turn in that playground and you turn around, you shove that bully back. He's going to think a little bit about it, or she's going to think a little bit about, do I keep going with this person? Same in a divorce.
Okay.
If your spouse is used to shoving you around, and for 20 years that's what this person has done, and you've taken it for whatever reasons, because you thought you should, because there were kids in the house, because you're trying to maintain the peace, and every time this person said this or did that, took a breath and let it go. When you start pushing back is when they start reacting in a way that they don't know how to react, or in an unusual way. Yeah. So push back. Push back.
Push back, people.
Push back.
Push back.
Push back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Accountability. Oh, everyone holds me accountable. I'm going to hold everybody else accountable as well. If you say something, I'm going to bring it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Right.
That's what you should do.
Yeah, absolutely.
No question.
No, I mean that's especially in women empowerment, because it is women who are being, emotionally and
I mean, look at this Hollywood producer we heard all the news this week.
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Who for years did whatever it is he wanted to do with these actresses. And we don't
proposition
know.
we don't know the whole thing.
But
it's still
but
coming
clearly
out.
there's enough smoke that there's something there, and you're only reading what you read in the paper or see on the news.
Right, the iceberg theory.
But here's people who were trying to make a career, and here's someone in power, and it's no different in a marriage. I bring all the money home. I paid for the house. If I didn't work, you wouldn't have that bracelet or the car or
I
be able to go
made
to the
you.
gym. Yeah, so you
God.
feel like, okay, yeah, maybe I got to be quiet.
Right.
Or maybe it's okay when this guy walks out of the bathroom and opens his robe. Okay, I got to put up with that because I want to
he's a
get that
famous-
part.
yeah, right.
You know, and it happens in all walks of life, but in relationships, they don't shut up, which is sometimes good in a divorce case because they say things to other people that are really stupid that a good lawyer can use, A, and B, push back, like you said.
Yeah. Accountability.
Accountability.
Take down the bullies.
I like it.
So I like it. Take
like it.
take down
I like
those
it.
bullies. You know what the sad thing is that they're just when they're acting this way. Like I actually, you have to kind of feel bad for them because they're just unhappy with who they are. Right? They're not getting attention.
A lot of it comes from insecurity.
Yeah, insecurity,
You know, my
or
wife
I say
says
the
that.
parents, 100%. I don't care how old you are. If your son or daughter is a bully, it is your fault.
Yeah, kids grow up. They see what they see. They grow up in their environment.
Right.
But my wife, the therapist, will say that somebody does that because they're insecure. They talk a lot about themselves because they're insecure. They're pushy because they're insecure.
But doesn't you think that comes from like your upbringing? Like
It
if
does.
you weren't
It can.
like, I mean,
It
think
can.
about
It
it, if
can.
you weren't like,
And they might. But here's the point: when you're the other person that has to deal with that, I don't care whether they're insecure or not. I don't want to. You don't want to. It's like you talk about friendships. It's got to be. There's that meeting in the middle. It's not all the way over here. So sometimes it doesn't matter why they're there. As someone who has to deal with that person, and in a marriage or in a relationship, whatever it might be, you got to find your way around it. And you've got a spouse or significant other who's insecure or grew up a certain way, but you love that person, then you got to help them work their way around that.
That's a really good point. That's a great tip. Write that down.
I'm full of them.
You got some good ones tonight. Okay. Well, now we are going to go into the book.
Sure.
So we can talk all about, because I had to. And so tell everybody where we can get this.
The book you can get on Amazon, on BarnesandNoble.com, all e-booksellers everywhere. It's in Barnes & Noble up on the Rockville Pike, and it's in several bookstores down the beach. Bethany Beach Bookstore, right on the beach. Great little bookshop, independent bookstore. And I heard from some folks this weekend that it's in a couple of bookstores down south in North Carolina and the Outer Banks in there. But online, you can pick it up anytime.
Yeah, and is there a website or just on Amazon?
There is.
Okay.
Well, it's on Amazon.
Okay.
But I have my own website, which is davidbullet.com.
davidbullet.com, okay?
Easy one.
Easy.
1 L, 2 T's.
There you go. 1 L, 2 T's. There you go. Sorry, so let's talk about, I love obviously like character development because I'm a writer as well. And so for me, character development is a huge deal, getting to know these people like inside and out. So tell us about how you created these characters.
Well, this book, and this is my second story, so I'm particularly proud of this. And this comes from the main female character in this book comes a lot from one of my children who's 22 years old, who's had a lot of issues, had mental health issues growing up, behavioral issues, had trouble making friends, ultimately ran away, and got involved with drugs and other things. That could be a whole different episode. So I took a lot of that sadness actually, and I built Jess Porter, who's my character in this book. And the backdrop for this is Jess is a 23-year-old adoptee, and two of my girls, my middle girls, are adopted. Mm-hmm. And she was adopted with her twin sister. She, unlike her sister, was not a down the middle of the road kind of a girl. Okay. Had trouble in school, had trouble making friends, was always on the outside looking in. And the center of her life, the alpha, so to speak, like when you have a dog, the dog's alpha, was her dad. And the backdrop of this story is a year after her adoptive dad has died. And she's still living at home with her mom and her sister looking to find her way. She decides to become a bartender and gets in her car and drives to South Florida, where she begins to tend bar and live. She makes a friend as a young adult in a group therapy session, a woman that she meets. So there's a lot of therapy scenes I'll come to very quickly in a second. And so she goes down there but continues to struggle. Decides that her holy grail, so to speak, is to find out who she really is and to find her biological history. So she, in order to do that, she reaches back to her father's best friend, who happens to be an aging, sort of somewhat jaded divorce lawyer who also is looking for the meaning of life in his own way. So the book is told from both their perspectives and their lives, how they're apart and they come together and then they go back apart again. And I'm really, really proud of her and how I wrote her in this book. This is a good beach read. You can see it's 270 pages or something like that.
Yeah.
Short chapters, and there's a lot of therapy piece. There's mental health issues. There's adoption issues. There's drug addiction issues. All sorts of things that you read about in the papers, but that we as parents are afraid of for our own kids.
Right.
Some of us have to deal with one or more of those things. And for better or for worse, I'm one of those parents. So
Yeah.
I was able to kind of use that, and that helped me write this story.
That's amazing. Well, I
Yeah.
can't wait to read it.
Yeah, and I'm really, really happy about it. And the cover I love.
Yeah.
They designed the cover for me, and I couldn't have picked it any better. So
Love it.
yeah,
It's good.
yeah.
Yay. So,
yeah.
guys and ladies, make sure you get a good book club night.
Yeah.
Gotta get with David.
Love to do book clubs. Book
do
clubs
book
are great.
clubs, yeah.
Love to do book clubs. We have a drink. We talk about the book.
Yeah.
Anything else somebody wants to talk about?
Yeah.
Was at a book club a few weeks ago. One woman is writing. Want to talk about the publishing process, all that kind of thing. Not that I'm an expert, but God knows I went through it.
You have to do the
enough.
research.
And that's a whole job in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
Not to mention what you've become very good at, and that is marketing yourself and trying to put your product out, and so that people hear you and see it's love. I mean, I wrote this book. People write books thinking, okay, it's written now. The world's going to read it. Not so much.
Well,
Not so
we're
much.
going to get you. I'll help you with your marketing.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll give you a
I
call
can help
tonight.
you. Yeah, that's right.
Perfect.
I'm like, yeah, I can help
Yeah,
you.
yeah. But it's so this is just was a real labor of love for me, and I'm really, really proud of it and happy how it came out.
That's awesome. And
Yeah,
I can't
thank
wait to
you.
hear about the next book that's coming out, too.
Yeah, we've got a couple of those in the works. Another
Yeah.
piece of fiction and then a piece of nonfiction. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that next time.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I want to
that'll be
hear all
another
about
time.
it.
Yeah.
That's good. So, so tell them again, right, because we got a few more minutes. So
Sure.
we're going to take a quick break before we get into the next segment. So just tell them again, David Bullett,
BULITT.com.
TT.com.
David Bullitt, BULITT.com.
I
You
love
can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, although I don't use Twitter very much. It's kind of an irritating little thing.
Just
But
irritating. You gotta get on
and my website, and Divorce Lawyer MD is my lawyer site.
Okay, divorce lawyer MD. Okay. All right, so we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Well, hello and welcome back to the Dating Advisory Board. I'm your host, Jen Hecht. I've got David Bullett on the show today. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Jen. It's been great.
No, it's been so much fun. So we're talking about books, about divorce, relationship advice, the whole gamut, right? But today I want to talk about celebrating the Day of the Girl, right? So we're empowering our tribe. We talked about creating a tribe, especially if you're going through a divorce or in relationships in general. Have a strong support system around you. So thank you so much for your advice on that and
My pleasure.
giving it back
Someone
to
who raised 4 girls, I can celebrate the Day of the Girl.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was just at an event. Thank you to Pamela Sorensen for inviting me as a Chance for Life Foundation to help support pediatric cancer. And I'm going to get involved and help them as well. But they're having a huge event on March 11th, I believe. So
Terrific.
you'll be hearing more about that, and you will be getting tickets.
I'm in. Absolutely.
You will be getting tickets. Sponsor a show.
Sounds like a demand.
That's
to
a
me,
demand,
but,
right?
I'm in.
You're in. No, it's good. But yeah, so I was saying we were talking a little bit about marketing. So I was coming up with some ideas that you could do because I have my book coming out November 7th.
You told me. That's
I'm very excited. Born to be Me with 18 other glorious sisters who are amazing. What I like about it is you're talking about authentic stories.
Yeah.
Right. For me, I mean, you're coming from authentic place. You're writing these characters. You're doing that. A lot of people are going to get a real eye opener on a lot of these people who are writing in this book because you see one side of me here and you see me on Facebook. But when you read the stories about where I talk about love and loss and everything in between, and the whole premise of the chapter is the last mile, right? Like, having my dad run that extra mile.
Yeah.
And
Nobody
so,
puts the bad stuff on Facebook, usually.
Yeah.
Usually it's all good stuff.
Yeah. So it's going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people. They'll get a different insight into Jen when they see that book come out on November 7th. But when I was watching, so anyone with books, so this is how I brought it up. So using Instagram, using Periscope, and doing, a live video with the book saying, I'd love to get your review on it, and then have something to provide
that would be
them.
helpful because, again, it's
I'll help
interesting.
you. I mean, I've got a ton of research on, like, social media for, like, PPC,
You
SEO.
sound like my kind of guy.
Yeah. Or gal.
Girl. I meant that generically.
I know, exactly. No, but yeah, because, I've had a background in it, so we'll chat after. So, but anyway, I want to thank you. We got to wrap up here because we have the next guest. We have another show coming on. But thank you guys so much for tuning in and have a great week.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.